The Generals of the Yang Family, Chapter 45.
We're stepping into a period of supposed peace during the Song dynasty.
Right, the border wars have ostensibly quieted down.
Exactly, and the imperial court is heavily invested in this narrative of stability. But this peace is paper thin. It is an administrative fiction built on the nervous systems of hypervigilant, exhausted generals.
They're completely burned out.
Utterly. The entire military structure has been stretched to a psychological breaking point. And the text brilliantly illustrates that a system running on chronic stress does not peacefully transition into peacetime.
It shatters.
It shatters, and the unraveling of this fragile peace begins far from the border. It starts in the dead of night with a severe disruption of the spiritual boundary.
Right. So we start with General Yang Liulang, also known as Yang Yanzhao. He's restless, and the narrative places us specifically at the third watch of the night.
That specific timing is so crucial.
Yeah, so Liulang's physically asleep, but his consciousness is invaded by his two most fiercely loyal subordinates, Meng Liang and Jiao.
And they do not appear in their standard military regalia, do they?
No, they don't. They appear completely saturated in blood, just covered in it.
Wow.
And they deliver this stark message. They say, we received your great grace, we couldn't repay it, and today we have specially come to say goodbye.
That is just chilling.
It really is.
Yeah.
Liulang reaches out to grab Meng Liang, demanding an explanation, and the physical motion wakes him up. He's just left with this profound sense of dread.
And the text immediately validates that dread the next morning.
Exactly. He receives a localized intelligence report that Jiao Zhan had secretly followed Meng Liang on a covert, highly dangerous mission to Yuzhou.
Okay, let's talk about the timing of that visitation, because the third watch, the Z hour, is the critical mechanism here.
Right. What does that signify?
Well, the Z hour falls roughly between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m., though in some regional variations, it stretches into the deepest point of the night, around 3 a.m.
So the absolute dead of night.
Exactly. And in Chinese esoteric traditions, the Z hour represents the absolute peak of yin energy and the incipient birth of yang. It's literally the hinge of the cosmic cycle.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the veil separating the corporeal world from the spiritual realm is at its absolute most permeable right then. So this is not a subconscious manifestation of Liulang's daytime anxieties.
It's real.
In the metaphysical framework of the text, yes. This is a literal, desperate transmission from the recently violently deceased.
And the blood-soaked imagery.
It serves a highly specific functional purpose. It visually, forcefully contradicts the emperor's decrees of a clear and peaceful world. The court's documents decree peace, but the blood of the soldiers dictates the actual state of the empire.
Okay, let's unpack this, because Liulang receives the intelligence about Jiao Zhan trailing Meng Liang, and his mind immediately constructs the causal chain of events.
He knows exactly what happened.
He does. He knows the operational parameters Meng Liang set before leaving. Meng Liang swore this violent oath, like, if I encounter any barbarian trying to track me or capture me, I will kill them with my own hands.
And Liulang understands the psychology of his men better than anyone.
Exactly. He knows Meng Liang operates in a state of perpetual lethal paranoia. He's been honed by decades of survival behind enemy lines.
Right.
And he also knows Jiao Zhan was trailing him in complete darkness. So the deduction Liulang reaches is just sickening.
It's the worst-case scenario.
He realizes that Meng Liang, unaware of his brother-in-arms' presence, must have registered footsteps in the dark. His hypervigilance bypassed conscious thought, his survival instinct triggered, and he eliminated the perceived threat.
He killed his best friend.
He killed his best friend. It's just devastating.
And Liulang doesn't require a formal military tribunal or an investigation to arrive at this conclusion because the trauma is systemic. He recognizes the shape of the pathology because he shares it.
He has the exact same mindset.
Yes. The very attributes that made Meng Liang an exceptional operative for the state.
Yeah.
His absolute ruthlessness, his hair-trigger threat response, his inability to turn off his martial instincts.
Right.
Those are the exact mechanisms of this tragedy. The text is demonstrating the fatal consequence of weaponizing human psychology.
You can't just turn that off.
Exactly. You cannot forge a human being into a perfectly paranoid instrument of state violence and then expect them to seamlessly navigate a dark road without casualties.
I mean, we often look at ancient texts and assume there's a chasm between their experiences and ours, but this is a brutally modern scenario.
Absolutely.
We see this mechanism constantly in contemporary covert operations or high-tension combat zones. It's the tragic reality of friendly fire.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
You have two deeply bonded agents operating under extreme adrenaline and sleep deprivation. One goes off book to provide overwatch for the other. A shadow moves, a noise is misidentified, and a lethal decision is made in a fraction of a second.
It's a mundane, gritty communication failure in the dirt.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the narrative placement is striking. The author grounds the catalyst for this entire supernatural collapse in a painfully human psychological error.
That grounding is essential for the text's broader critique. If the collapse of the Yang family generals began with an overwhelming supernatural force or a massive enemy army, the blame could be externalized.
Then you just blame the Liao dynasty.
Exactly. But by starting the collapse with an entirely internal psychological failure, a manifestation of the state's killing aura turning inward, the text indicts the system itself.
Wow.
Liulang voices his deduction aloud, stating that Jiao is finished. But he is trapped in the agony of an unconfirmed theory until the physical evidence actually manifests.
And the mechanism of that manifestation is honestly a masterclass in bureaucratic irony.
It really is.
The narrative shifts from the internal horror of Liulang's realization to an external, almost bureaucratic transaction at the gates of his mansion.
Right. A night patrolman arrives.
Yeah, a night patrolman from Yuzhou shows up in the dead of night, and this patrolman is entirely detached from the grand military narrative. He is literally a local municipal worker walking a beat.
He has no idea what he's involved in.
None. He informs Liulang that a robust, unidentified warrior approached him a few nights prior, forced a wooden box into his hands with urgent instructions to deliver it to the general's mansion, and then vanished.
The anonymity there is the absolute tell.
Because everyone knows who it is.
Right. The reader and Liulang immediately identify the warrior as Meng Liang, and the psychological payload of that interaction is just immense.
Because Meng Liang just mistakenly slaughtered his closest companion.
Exactly. The psychological architecture of his reality has collapsed entirely. Yet the conditioning of the military state is so absolute that he prioritizes the mission objective over his own unraveling sanity.
That is so dark.
He completes the extraction, secures the asset, and initiates the delivery chain before presumably walking out into the wilderness to die.
And the asset in that wooden box is the ultimate prize within the Yang family lore, right? It's the recovered bones of the patriarch, Commander Yang, also known as Liang.
Yes.
So Meng Liang successfully infiltrated Yuzhou and extracted the foundational relic of their lineage. Liulang is suddenly staring at the sacred remains of his father. The mission is an unqualified success.
But at what cost?
Exactly. And Liulang's response is to just hand the patrolman 10 taels of silver.
The specificity of the 10 taels is a crucial detail here.
Why is that?
Well, in the economic context of the era, 10 taels of silver is a massive, life-altering sum for a municipal patrolman. It could represent years of wages.
Wow.
But within the spiritual economy of the narrative, it highlights the profound disjunction between the sacred and the profane. Liulang is attempting to apply a quantifiable earthly transaction to an item of immeasurable metaphysical weight.
Right. The patrolman just trudged through the freezing night, annoyed by some erratic stranger, completely oblivious to the fact that he was carrying the spiritual anchor of the Empire's greatest military family.
He essentially performed a gig economy delivery for a holy relic.
That is a crazy way to put it, but it's so accurate. The transaction feels almost desperate on Liulang's part, you know? Like an attempt to impose order through commerce onto an increasingly chaotic reality.
He's grasping for control.
He really is. Then the scouts return and confirm the physical reality of Liulang's deduction. The bodies of Meng Liang and Jiao Zhan have been located.
And how are they found?
They were found exposed outside the walls of Yuzhou, hastily buried in shallow sand. The contrast between the monumental success of the mission and the pathetic indignity of their physical end is staggering.
The shallow grave of sand is the ultimate physical manifestation of the state's regard for its instrument.
They're just disposable.
Exactly. Meng Liang and Jiao Zhan secured the borders. They executed the most sensitive covert operations. Yet, in the end, they do not receive the mythological send-off of heroes.
Right.
They receive the rapid, crude disposal of compromised assets in hostile territory. The reality of war is the shallow sand grave. The mythology of war is what the emperor attempts to construct immediately afterward.
Right, because the intelligence reaches Emperor Zhenzong in the capital. And his response is a textbook example of a state apparatus attempting to control a narrative that threatens its foundational mythology.
It's all about spin.
Completely. The emperor issues a decree posthumously elevating Meng Liang and Jiao Zhan to the rank of Marquis of Loyalty and Sincerity and mandates the construction of grand royal tombs.
You really have to view this not as an act of mourning, but as a defensive political maneuver.
How so?
Well, the state relies on the illusion of organized, purposeful sacrifice to maintain morale and control.
Yeah.
Two of the highest-ranking operatives butchering each other in the dark due to trauma-induced paranoia directly contradicts the narrative of glorious service to the throne.
This is terrible for the administration.
Exactly. By bestowing the title Marquis of Loyalty and Sincerity, the emperor is performing bureaucratic alchemy. He is utilizing the power of state decree to forcibly transmute a senseless, chaotic tragedy into a narrative of noble, ordered sacrifice.
The royal tombs are architectural lies.
Yes, they're designed to cover up the shallow sand graves.
It is an attempt to rewrite the causality of their deaths. But the emperor's narrative control ends at the borders of Liulang's consciousness.
Liulang knows the truth.
He does. Liulang possesses the patriarch's bones. The highest dictate of Confucian filial piety has been achieved. The patriarch has been returned to the ancestral soil.
But he doesn't celebrate.
No. He does not acknowledge the emperor's posthumous titles. The text explicitly states that he descends into a profound depression, withdraws entirely from his military duties, and locks the doors of his mansion.
Is this essentially the ancient equivalent of survivor's guilt?
That's exactly what I was thinking. I mean, Liulang's withdrawal is a recognition of the fatal mathematics of the empire. He's experiencing an acute form of survivor's guilt, compounded by the intense isolation inherent in high command.
The mission succeeded, but the collateral damage was the destruction of the very men who actually executed it.
The Confucian ideal of filial piety was achieved, but at the cost of the martial brotherhood.
Liulang understands that the state's demands are fundamentally irreconcilable with human survival. His depression is a total cognitive collapse. The ideological framework that justified his life's work has disintegrated.
And Liulang locking himself in his mansion creates a huge vacuum.
A structural vacuum,
Yeah. Because he is the primary load-bearing pillar of the military apparatus. And you, the listener, have to think about this in terms of architecture. When a structure that massive suddenly withdraws its support, the stress immediately transfers to the other load-bearing pillars of the system.
The whole building groans.
Exactly. This localized physical trauma on the border instantly mutates into a systemic metaphysical crisis in the capital. The rot seeps under the doors of the royal court.
And it manifests directly in the body of the Eighth Prince.
Right. So who exactly is the Eighth Prince in this context?
The Eighth Prince, historically referred to as Bawang, functions as the political counterpart to Liulang.
Okay.
He is the administrative and moral anchor of the imperial court. And the text notes that upon returning from Yuzu, which is notably the very site of the initial trauma, the prince suddenly succumbs to a severe key disease.
A key disease. I feel like in this specific textual environment, that requires some deep examination.
Absolutely.
Because the minister Kuzun, who kind of operates as the voice of naive bureaucratic optimism here, attempts to dismiss it as a minor ailment. He urges the prince to recover so he can manage the court in this new era of clear and peaceful seas.
He's just trying to keep the machine running.
Yeah, but the prince completely rejects this assessment. He states, "My great number is up. My fate cannot be escaped." He recognizes the illness is terminal.
What's fascinating here is the definition of a key disease. In the context of traditional Chinese medicine and Song dynasty cosmology, qi is not merely biological energy.
What is it then?
It is the vital animating force that connects the human microcosm to the cosmic macrocosm. So a key disease of this magnitude in a state pillar is a psychosomatic manifestation of systemic collapse.
The system is literally making him sick.
Yes, the prince's vital energy is dissipating under the invisible, crushing weight of the empire's shifting reality. Kuzun's attempt to dismiss it just reveals the bureaucracy's desperate need to maintain the illusion of control.
They can't handle the truth.
Right. When the political pillar declares that his great number, his astrologically allotted lifespan, is exhausted, it triggers an existential panic within the administration.
So they do what any panicked administration would do. They escalate.
They resort to the highest level of mystical intervention.
Exactly. Kuzun and Chayu bypass standard medical protocol entirely. They petition Emperor Zenzong for authorization to execute a praying to the Big Dipper ritual within the Forbidden Palace.
This isn't a simple prayer.
No, this is the deployment of a highly complex, state-sponsored metaphysical technology.
The mechanism of the Big Dipper ritual, or Qi Beidou, is rooted deeply in Taoist esoteric practice.
Okay.
In this cosmological framework, the stars of the Northern Dipper do not merely observe human events, they actively control the ledger of life and death.
Wait, really? They literally hold the ledger?
They dictate the exact duration of a person's lifespan. By authorizing this ritual within the innermost sanctum of earthly power, the emperor is essentially opening direct diplomatic negotiations with the cosmos.
That is wild.
The state is attempting to lobby the celestial bureaucracy to alter the ledger, requesting an extension on the prince's life to prevent an administrative collapse on Earth.
So it's a cosmic plea bargain. Taoist Master Qinghua is brought in to construct the altar and execute the ritual. And this requires 2 full days of uninterrupted concentration.
A massive metaphysical effort.
Massive. And the focal point of all this is a single heavenly lamp placed on the altar. Master Qinghua establishes the parameter. He says, as long as the heavenly lamp on the altar stays lit and doesn't go out, the prince will be safe.
They've tethered his life to a candle.
Right. They take the internal, invisible failing of the prince's biological systems and tether it to a highly visible, incredibly fragile external mechanism.
It is the ultimate externalization of systemic anxiety.
Absolutely.
The court has localized the fate of the empire into a flickering flame. The psychological pressure in that room must have been immense.
Imagine someone just sneezing.
Right. Every shift in the air currents, every breath drawn by a minister, becomes a potential threat to national security. The lamp functions as a primitive, mystical telemetry system.
A visible metric for an invisible cosmic negotiation. I kind of equate it to a mystical heart monitor in an ICU.
That's a perfect analogy.
Everyone in the court is just staring at this flickering flame, equating it directly to the life of the prince. But it's a monitor where observing it actually influences the outcome. The entire apparatus of the state is holding its breath, projecting its collective will onto this flame.
And it seems to work.
It does. The startling outcome is that the mechanism appears to function flawlessly. The 2 days elapse, the heavenly lamp remains illuminated, and the 8th prince experiences a miraculous complete recovery.
The Qi disease just vanishes.
Vanishes. The court erupts in a frenzy of relief and celebration. Emperor Zhenzong is ecstatic. But we have to ask and push back on this a bit. Did the magic actually work? Or was it just a placebo effect for a stressed-out court?
Well, the text operates on a level where dual realities coexist.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
On a purely psychological and physiological level, the absolute mobilization of the state apparatus, the hyper-focused attention of the emperor and the ministers, likely provided a profound placebo effect.
Right, it stabilized the prince's stress-induced collapse.
Exactly. However, within the metaphysical reality established by the romance of the Yang family, Master Qinghua's intervention was literal and successful.
He actually hacked the cosmic ledger.
He successfully petitioned the Big Dipper and secured a timeline extension. But this narrative is fundamentally about the consequences of systemic imbalance.
There's always a cost.
Always. You cannot arbitrarily alter a cosmic ledger without incurring a massive metaphysical debt. The universe possesses an inherent elasticity. If you pull a fate out of its designated alignment, the snapback will be violent and unpredictable.
And that violent course correction materializes almost immediately. The transition from bureaucratic triumph to mythological terror is whiplash-inducing.
It happens so fast.
Emperor Zhenzong hosts this massive banquet to celebrate the prince's recovery, explicitly stating, "Your recovery is the great fortune of the state." The bureaucracy is just reveling in their perceived victory over death.
They think they won.
They really do. And at dusk, the banquet concludes. The ministers are formally escorting the 8th prince out of the palace precinct, approaching the east gate. And in an instant, the rigid, highly controlled architecture of the imperial center is shattered by an impossibility.
The anomaly manifests with zero precedent or warning.
Right.
A wild, white-fronted tiger suddenly materializes, charging through the eastern sector of the city. It's inciting absolute panic among the populace and heading on a direct vector toward the east gate, specifically targeting the 8th prince.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the spatial logic of this event demands scrutiny.
It doesn't make any sense physically.
No. This is the heavily fortified, densely populated capital of the Song dynasty. The imperial palace is a fortress within a fortress. The biological probability of an apex predator spawning deep within the urban center, bypassing multiple layers of heavily armed security, and arriving precisely at the east gate at the exact moment the prince is exiting. It's zero.
It's impossible.
It's like seeing a cryptid or a glitch in the Matrix right on the White House lawn. It's not an animal control issue. It is a severe glitch in the fabric of reality. For you listening, just imagine the sheer panic of an elite state banquet instantly turning into a monster hunt.
Right. The geography and the specific symbolism of the entity are the keys to decoding this event.
Let's break that down.
In Chinese cosmology and military symbolism, the tiger, specifically the white tiger, is the avatar of the West. It's associated with the season of autumn, the element of metal, and the energy of martial violence and death.
The killing aura.
Exactly, the killing aura. The East Gate, conversely, is associated with spring, wood, and the generation of life.
Oh, wow.
So a manifestation of pure martial violence, the white tiger, assaulting the gate of life at the political center of the empire, is a catastrophic elemental clash.
It's a symbolic collision.
Yes. It signifies that the repressed, unacknowledged trauma of the military campaigns has broken containment and invaded the sanctum of the civilian government.
And the prince's reaction is instinctual and lethal. He doesn't freeze or attempt to rationalize the impossibility of the threat. The martial conditioning of the era overrides his recent convalescence.
He acts immediately.
He demands a carved bow, draws an arrow, and as this avatar of violence charges him, he executes a flawless shot. The arrow impacts the tiger squarely in the neck.
Which is incredible for a guy who was dying 2 days ago.
Astonishing physical execution. But the outcome of the impact defies biological expectations. A kinetic strike of that magnitude to the cervical spine should instantly drop a biological organism.
It should be dead on the spot.
But it isn't. Instead, the tiger, with the arrow embedded in its neck, immediately breaks its charge, turns, and flees. The palace guards pursue it aggressively toward the Jinsui River, and upon reaching the water, the entity completely vanishes.
No trace at all.
No corpse, no blood trail, no physical displacement of the environment. The sheer absence of evidence confirms the terrifying reality. The prince did not shoot an animal.
He shot a spiritual projection.
Yes, and the adrenaline crash following that realization must have been devastating. The prince returns to his residence, deeply shaken. And the text notes that almost instantaneously, the terminal key disease surges back into his system with catastrophic force.
It comes right back.
He collapses, permanently bedridden. The magical extension granted by the Big Dipper ritual has been instantly revoked.
The revocation of the extension is tied directly to his action at the East Gate.
Because he shot the tiger.
Right. The prince realizes, perhaps intuitively, that his attempt at self-defense was a catastrophic error. He interacted with a cosmic anomaly using lethal force, and in doing so, he engaged the very metaphysical mechanism that the Big Dipper ritual was attempting to suppress.
So he doomed himself.
He didn't neutralize a threat, he pulled the trigger on a cosmic trap, and the narrative then executes a brilliant structural maneuver.
It really does.
It abandons the chaos of the capital and violently shifts the perspective back to the isolated mansion of General Yang Liulang.
And the synchronization of these two narrative threads is where the true horror of the text reveals itself. We left Liulang locked in his mansion, slowly disintegrating under the weight of his depression and survivor's guilt.
He was in a dark place.
Very dark. And simultaneously with the events at the East Gate, Liulang suffers a catastrophic mortal health crisis. The suddenness and severity prompt him to summon his mother, the formidable Shi Taijun, also known as Leng Po, along with the remnants of the family.
And she tries to help him.
Shi Taijun attempts to deploy the standard comforts, suggesting medical intervention, but Liulang cuts her off. He understands the mechanics of his impending death, and he dictates a confession that fundamentally rewrites everything we just analyzed.
This revelation is the structural linchpin of the entire narrative arc.
It changes everything.
It recontextualizes every preceding event, transforming a series of tragic anomalies into a single, cohesive, supernatural mechanism.
Okay, here it is. Liulang tells his mother, "Yesterday, during the day, I fell asleep, and my spirit wandered. My spirit drifted to the east gate of the palace. Just as I arrived, I saw the 8th prince and the ministers leaving court.
Right.
And suddenly the prince got angry. He drew a bow, he fired an arrow, and it hit me squarely in the neck. I woke up in agonizing bone pain, and I knew my fate was sealed."
The implications of that statement are staggering.
My mind is utterly blown by this twist. Liulang's spirit was the white tiger.
Yes. The text utilizes the concept of astral projection, the Hun soul separating from the physical body during periods of extreme psychological distress or ki depletion, to orchestrate the ultimate iteration of systemic friendly fire.
The conceptual architecture here is deeply unsettling. I mean, think about it like a tangled quantum entanglement.
That's a great way to view it.
You have two particles, the prince and the general, linked across distance. They're the two foundational pillars of the empire. The eighth prince is the political core. Liulang is the martial shield.
They are completely interconnected.
So intertwined that an action taken by one to preserve himself instantaneously and fatally annihilates the other. The prince, reacting to a perceived monstrous threat to the political center, unknowingly executes the spirit of his most vital protector.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the macrocosm reflects the microcosm.
How so?
The tragedy in the capital is a massive structural repetition of the tragedy in the dirt outside Yuzhou.
Oh, wow. You're right.
Meng Liang executed his brother-in-arms in the dark because his trauma-induced paranoia overrode his target identification. The eighth prince executed his general in the twilight because his fear of the anomaly overrode his understanding of the cosmic balance.
It's the exact same pattern.
Yes, the state's inherent violence loops back upon itself. The pattern of friendly fire escalates from the tactical level to the existential level, striking the very foundations of the imperial structure.
This forces a really profound psychological inquiry into Liulang's state of mind. We have to analyze the mechanism of the astral projection itself.
We do.
Did Liulang's paralyzing depression actively generate the beast? I mean, he was trapped in an administrative protocol, locked in a mansion, forced to silently mourn the destruction of his men while the state handed out empty titles.
He was suppressing so much.
Exactly. Did his subconscious, his suppressed rage and feral grief, literally manifest as an apex predator pacing outside the walls of the palace? Was the tiger a desperate spiritual cry for acknowledgement? Or was it an unconscious accusation aimed directly at the political center that demanded their sacrifice?
The text strongly supports that psychological reading. The physical body of Liulang was adhering to Confucian expectations of mourning. He was confined and passive.
Right, doing what he was supposed to do.
But his Hun soul, untethered by his collapsing Kai, was completely feral. It manifested as the white tiger, the ultimate symbol of the martial violence that the state relied upon but refused to truly acknowledge.
The trauma broke containment.
Exactly. The trauma of the military broke through the metaphysical barrier, invading the pristine political sphere, essentially demanding to be recognized.
And what does the political sphere do?
Its immediate, instinctual response was to deploy lethal force against it. The state cannot tolerate the raw, unvarnished manifestation of its own violence.
That is a chilling indictment. The political center shoots the trauma it created.
It's brutal.
Liulang recognizes the finality of the sequence. He doesn't request a Big Dipper ritual. He understands that the ledger is closed. He utilizes his final moments to transmit crucial intelligence to his lineage.
He speaks to his son.
Yeah, he addresses his son, Zongbao, and specifically instructs him to remember an astrological prophecy delivered earlier by Uncle Yonde. The nation's killing aura is not yet removed.
Uncle Yonde's prophecy regarding the killing aura, or Shaqi, serves as the thesis statement for the systemic collapse we are witnessing.
How does it fit in?
Well, Emperor Zhenzong's entire administrative apparatus is built on the declaration that the 4 C's are clear and peaceful. The emperor legislated peace.
Right, he just put it on paper.
But the astrological and metaphysical reality, the underlying data layer accessed by Yonde, indicates that the Shaqi, the concentrated malignant energy generated by decades of warfare, remains heavily concentrated over the nation.
The peace is a lie.
The emperor's peace is an administrative fiction overlaying a highly volatile, energetic reality.
The crucial realization here is that the Shaqi is no longer localized to the borders. It's not emanating from the Liao dynasty or external hostiles anymore. It has permeated the interior.
It's inside the house.
The aura is bouncing around inside the containment vessel of the empire, infecting the host organisms. The Shaqi caused Meng Liang to slaughter Jiao Zan. The Shaqi caused the 8th prince to execute Liulang.
It's turning them on each other.
Exactly. The violent energy, lacking an external target, is systematically dismantling the state from the inside out. Liulang instructs his son to remain loyal despite this reality, which is honestly a devastating testament to his conditioning.
He can't break the programming.
No, he can't. He then addresses his 4th brother, Yanlang, instructing him to care for their mother, and he highlights a fascinating anomaly. He states, "Among all the brothers, only you are blessed with a long life."
The survival of Liang provides the control group for the text's central hypothesis.
Okay, break that down for us.
Why does Liang achieve longevity while his brothers are systematically ground down by violent ends or mysterious stress-induced illnesses?
Because he got out.
Exactly, because Liang, within the broader context of the lore, had previously been severed from the core military apparatus. Through capture and subsequent integration with the enemy, he stepped entirely outside the relentless consuming machine of the Song dynasty's martial expectations.
So he inadvertently saved himself.
Yes, by physically and administratively removing himself from the epicenter of the capital's Shaki, he accidentally inoculated himself against the systemic collapse. The text quietly, subversively posits that dedicated service to this specific imperial structure is functionally a terminal diagnosis.
To function as a pillar of the state is to guarantee your own destruction.
That's the tragic irony.
Liulang succumbs to the spiritual wound and dies at the age of 48. 48. He is at the absolute apex of his strategic and intellectual capacity, and he is simply erased from the board.
It's such a waste of brilliance.
And the text inserts a specific poem to lament his passing, and the language used is highly intentional. It reads, "Generously returning to the court, his wishes fulfilled, the general rightfully receives the title of Marquis. But today on his grave is only ruthless dirt, and the wild grass grows thick through the passing autumns."
The poetic structure relies on a brutal juxtaposition.
Right.
The initial couplet regurgitates the official state propaganda. The general executed his duty, achieved his objectives, and received his bureaucratic compensation in the form of a title. It is the narrative the emperor desperately wants to project.
And the second half.
The final couplet violently deconstructs that narrative, presenting the cold biological reality. The dirt is described as ruthless because the physical mechanics of decomposition are entirely immune to imperial decrees.
The dirt doesn't care.
The dirt does not recognize a marquis. The wild grass does not respect the hierarchy of the court. The text mocks the futility of utilizing administrative titles to mask the profound human cost of the empire's survival.
The dirt consumes the hero and the foot soldier with the exact same efficiency.
Exactly.
The termination of Liulang's life is not merely a localized tragedy. It is the critical structural failure that initiates the final cascade. The narrative moves into the concluding phase, the domino fall of the empire's load-bearing structures.
The whole thing comes down.
The intelligence of Liulang's death propagates through the capital. The text emphasizes that the grief is absolute and systemic, extending from the highest military echelons down to the commoners in the street.
The collective grief is an instinctual recognition of vulnerability. The population isn't solely mourning the individual. They are mourning the evaporation of their security apparatus.
Their shield is gone.
The shield that absorbed the Shaki for decades has shattered.
And the psychological impact on Emperor Zhenzong is profound. The illusion of his administrative control just shatters. In a moment of terrifying clarity, he despairs, crying out, "Heaven doesn't want me to achieve peace. It makes my pillars break first."
The emperor's articulation of the pillars breaking is the moment the text exposes the core fragility of autocratic power.
It's a huge admission.
It is. The emperor realizes that the entire architecture of his state, the decrees, the posthumous titles, the royal tombs, even the highly classified Taoist rituals, possesses zero inherent structural integrity.
It's all built on people.
Exactly. The power of the state is entirely dependent on the physical and psychological endurance of the human beings holding it up. The emperor attempted to manage a profound metaphysical crisis using paperwork and placebo magic.
But it wasn't enough.
No.
Yeah.
Because when the actual human infrastructure, Liulang and the prince, collapses under the accumulated stress, the entire administrative edifice caves in.
The speed of the subsequent collapse is just staggering. The 8th prince is confined to his bed, his Kern's care completely depleted by the return of the illness following the incident at the East Gate.
He's already on the brink.
Right. Then the intelligence regarding General Yang Liulang's death is delivered to him. The text states that the prince is so overwhelmed by grief and indignation that his biological systems experience a final massive failure and he dies. But the psychological state of the 8th prince in those final moments demands speculation. The text attributes his death to grief upon receiving the news. But the informational network of the capital is highly porous.
Rumors spread fast.
Exactly. Did someone leak the details of Liulang's final confession? Did the prince receive the intelligence that Liulang's spirit was the tiger at the east gate?
That's a terrifying thought.
We have to consider the possibility that the eighth prince died because his mind finally connected the data points. He realized that the arrow he fired in perceived self-defense actually executed the very man he was mourning.
That would break anyone.
The crushing weight of that guilt, the realization that he was the architect of his own destruction, combined with the catastrophic failure of the Big Dipper ritual, it caused a total systemic shutdown.
Within the highly tuned psychological landscape, the author has established that interpretation is entirely valid. The burden of executing the ultimate act of supernatural friendly fire was the catastrophic load that broke the final pillar.
So the board is wiped clean. The eighth prince is deceased. General Liulang is deceased. Meng, Liang, and Jiao are buried in shallow sand. The foundational infrastructure of the Song dynasty has been vaporized by its own internal pressures.
Everything is gone.
What is the response of the supreme executive? Emperor Zhenzong suspends the court for 2 days. He halts the entire machinery of the government. And then the bureaucracy, specifically ministers Kuzun and Chai Yu, the very architects of the failed lamp ritual, engage in the only operational protocol they have left.
What do?
They formulate and issue new decrees. The eighth prince is posthumously elevated to the status of Prince Wei, bearing the honorable name Yi. General Liulang is posthumously designated as the Duke of Qingguo, with maximum state honors.